You're listening to the Hamptons to Hollywood podcast, hosted by me, Kyle Langan, the founder of HamptonsToHollywood.com. Whenever I meet someone in LA who has made the literal Hamptons to Hollywood journey and moved from one locale to the other, just like I did 8 years ago, it's exciting. And our guest today did just that. I sat down with Marley Ficalora, a Montauk native who is the founder of the Produce Section Challenge, which is a wellness movement he began to show the world that eating healthily doesn't have to be expensive. Marley has never eaten meat and has seen firsthand the damage that certain foods can cause, but also at how beneficial healthy foods can be to our minds and bodies. Marley and I talked about his journey to LA from the Hamptons, his wellness company, and he even let me in on a few secrets on how we can all be just a little bit healthier. Disclaimer, I've been remarkably plant-based, save for the occasional late-night chicken sandwich, since our conversation. It was that powerful. So, let's get into it. Marley, thank you for being on the Hamptons to Hollywood podcast. Appreciate it. So you are you the founder of the Produce Section Challenge?
Yeah, I walked into that produce section that day, and that was the beginning. I started it actually in the beginning of November 2017, so we're going on 2 years coming up next month.
Take me through why. Why was this something that you wanted to do, and kind of your history with eating healthily?
The Produce Section Challenge is really important to me because I've seen kind of in real life circumstances people going through some really hard times with their health, and it was a kind of a collection of moments that caused me to start this, because I know it's kind of, well, what was he doing? Late 20s, walks into a grocery store, decides he's only going to eat produce. What made him, make this change, drastic change, a huge shift, and want this to be his life's mission, his life's purpose, and his passion. And it was seeing good, conscious people making decisions that they thought were right, or making decisions that they thought they were helping someone when in fact they were actually hurting themselves. And I realized there's this massive lack of education when it comes to food. We've gone so far away from real food that I say this all the time, the convenient inconvenience. We've made it very convenient to get food, but the food that is convenient is inconvenience, because we get all of these really terrible diseases that are at all-time highs. All of these, mortality rate from what we eat is higher than it's ever been in the course of history. So when we're in 2019, we have technology like we've never seen before. We have medical equipment like we've never seen before. We have the ability to communicate across the world in a matter of a second, and yet we still have all of these diseases increasing based on our food supply. So I guess really quickly to answer your question, it was a collection of moments. The first moment was probably the most important moment for me. Was I was visiting a friend. She was in the hospital. I was on the way to the airport actually, and she had called me. She had just had her appendix removed. She had appendicitis. It burst the night before. She's sitting in the hospital. I got about 4 hours till my flight, so I go and I stop at this hospital, and I get there, and I haven't been to a hospital in a really long time. I honestly can't remember the last time I was at the hospital. Maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I was at a hospital. So it's been a long time since I've been in a hospital. I'm not advocating that you don't go to hospitals. Go get routine checkups, take care of yourself, get your blood work done, prevent your diseases before they happen. But I just so haven't been to a hospital in a long time. So I'm in this hospital. One thing I noticed that I'd never seen before is these massive cardiac wings. The majority of a hospital now is a cardiac unit, and it makes sense now knowing what I know now, but at that time I didn't realize that heart disease is the number one cause of death, that there's strokes was number 4, number 5, it's close up there. You got heart disease, cancer, strokes, diabetes, all these sorts of things that are just absolutely destroying the nation's health. So I'm walking through the cardiac wing, this massive, brand new, donated from someone who's a philanthropist, cardiac wing, and I'm walking through the corridor, and I get into an elevator, and I'm going up to go across a wing to get to the smaller area where she was being held for her, appendicitis. And I'm in this elevator, and I've got a pint of ice cream because she asked for ice cream. She said, whatever you do, bring me ice cream. And going against my own self-interest, being a vegan, I walked into a gas station on the run to the airport and grabbed a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And I get in this elevator, and I'm holding this pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and the woman standing next to me who walks into the elevator, who was a heavy-set woman, was very, very large, and she walks in and she's holding 2 McDonald's McFlurries, and so I'm holding ice cream, she's holding ice cream in a different form, but still ice cream, and we're sitting in this elevator and the doors close and it's going up, and she goes, "Oh, it looks like we're both thinking alike, like great minds think alike. We both got this ice cream." She's like, "Who are you here visiting?" You know, so we're both smiling, laughing. She's just such a nice woman. And I say, I'm here visiting, you know, my friend, she had her appendix burst, she's got appendicitis. I say, who are you visiting? And she's like, "Oh, well, I brought one of these for my friend who just had a stroke, and then one of them's for me." So she's like, "Yeah, my friend had a stroke, and she's here recovering, and she's going to spend the night, so I came to spend some time with her." And she had an M&M and an Oreo McFlurry. I'll never forget them. Not that it makes any great choices, by the way. No, do not eat them. Do not eat them, seriously. So she got an M&M and an Oreo McFlurry, and she's such a nice lady. And she's like smiling. She initiated the conversation with me, was so pleasant, was so kind, was excited about the fact that we were both bringing ice cream to our friends, one for a stroke, one for appendicitis. Now, I don't know if the ice cream caused appendicitis or not, but I do know that there's definitely negative side effects to eating ice cream when you have a stroke. So she gets off the elevator and doors close. I go up the next floor. I go over to her room. I give her the ice cream. She says, she laughs. She's the nurse. "Is this okay?" And the nurse says, "Of course. You have your ice cream. I won't look." And I'm like thinking, no one cares about food here. And we're in a hospital. So I get on the plane. I go and I fly to New York. The day I get back, I get off the plane, I go drive to the grocery store, I go to the produce section, I say, I'm making a change, not for myself, but for, hopefully, not just for myself, but hopefully I'm going to share this with everyone, and people will start to see what I saw and say, wow, we need to make a massive shift and a massive change to the way we perceive food, because we think we're doing something good, when in fact we're actually causing so much harm. And I had done so much research on that plane and so much research when I was in New York, and then I got back and I went right to the produce section. I said, I'm going to do this because there's really good people that are really sick and they're struggling. These aren't people that are rich. These aren't people that have a lot. These are people that are just really, really, like, this lady was so freaking bubbly and so nice. And to think that, you know, there are problems with being overweight too. And not to say that you should judge anyone or be mean to anyone or belittle anyone, but there's health side effects. Like, the studies are overwhelmingly saying that. So, you know, anyway, that's what occurred. I saw it, and it just hit me. It was a moment that kind of just will stick with me forever. I can see that as clear as it was that day. And it's been almost 2 years, and I still remember exactly what she looks like. I still remember exactly what the elevator looks like, because that was my aha, my epiphany. It was a moment that I realized that a lot of good people are in a lot of harm, and
I think that there's. First, I don't even think like McFlurries have like dairy in them. It's like some weird like.
I know they have sugar in them. I'll tell you that much.
Actually, and sugar, I heard that is like one of like the biggest like factors that like of aging. Which, so if you're vain, like I can be, or we all can be, like, you know, it can give you wrinkles. But yeah. But you've been vegan for a while, like. How long have you been vegan?
So I've been vegetarian my entire life.
Okay.
So I've never eaten meat, fish, but I have had dairy. So I've been vegan for probably around 4 years now. Okay. Vegetarian my whole life. And if anyone's watching or listening and they're saying, well, what's the difference between vegan and vegetarian? Vegetarian means that there's like lacto-ovo-vegetarian. Essentially, you eat cheese, you eat eggs, but you don't eat meat or fish, no flesh. And then vegan is you abstain from all animal products, which means no leather belts, no leather shoes, and also, you know, it's a diet plus more of like a lifestyle, and trying not to cause any harm to any living animals. So you wouldn't eat honey, you wouldn't eat those sorts of things. So,
And what was because I know like your mom or your parents, I guess, were obviously, you know, involved in you being a vegetarian. So were they very conscious about, you know, eating healthily as well? Yeah.
So I think my parents were the spark for the fire, and with saying that, it kind of was an underlying theme throughout the course of my life that was laying there waiting to come out. And it was the fact that my father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 2 years old. And he had it even before that, but he was diagnosed when I was 2 years old. He was forced into retirement from a fairly comfortable job at IBM in tech. And And so my mom had to become the breadwinner. She took over my grandfather's hotel, her father's hotel in Montauk. That's how I ended up in Montauk. But so you have my dad with this neurological disease, multiple sclerosis, and it's like a really tough disease. And it takes time to develop. It doesn't hit you all at once, but it's really challenging. So he wanted to do whatever he possibly could for the long term to have, a healthy and happy life. And it's tricky because they don't know a lot about the disease. There's a lot of things coming out more and more as they do more research, but at that time they really didn't know much about it. They knew it was becoming more and more prevalent. But so he went to a specialist. His name was Dr. Swink. He was in Oregon at the time. So he went there and he met with him, and he was talking about MS and the relationship between what you eat and the impact on the progression of multiple sclerosis. So he talked with him. He's one of the people that they refer back to a lot now. His studies, a lot of people that are plant-based or vegan or in this for health conscious reasons. He was kind of like a mentor for a lot of the doctors that are kind of pushing this philosophy. And so he met with him and he became one of his patients, and he really advocated more than anything for a low saturated fat diet, which is like low on, cheese, low on fats, oils, those sorts of things. So my dad removed all of those, and my mom was cooking for him, and then my mom became vegetarian at the same time to support my dad.
Sure.
And my dad wasn't eating cheese or anything. He became he was eating fish and then just fruits and vegetables. So he was like, I guess it would be pescatarian, but he wasn't eating any cheese or dairy. So my dad started to follow that diet. My mom was doing that, and at the same time she was raising us as vegetarians, not eating any meat or fish. Yeah. So, and then my mom looked into it, found out about the ethical reasons, which I think happens to a lot of people. She realized, hey, look, this food tastes good. I feel better, and I'm not causing any harm, and I'm able to support my husband, who's battling this really tough disease and going through a time that's really challenging. And so it was kind of a win-win for all of us. But then throughout the course of my life, I kind of watched the progression of my father's disease and his battle with choosing what to eat and what not to eat. If there's a candy or if there was a cookie in the house, it was kind of that choice where we would all he would go for it, and we would be like, Dad, don't eat it, all the time. I would tell my dad not to eat things, not in a mean way or a harsh way, but I think it was just trying to help him. We know the power of it. And so I think throughout the course of my life, I was telling my dad not to eat things. And now I tell hundreds of thousands of people not to eat things.
I mean, this might be a dumb question because you've never eaten it, but do you ever feel like you're missing out on not eating animal protein?
I never felt like I was missing out on anything. Right. I think food's important, and I think there's actually more flavor in eating fruits and vegetables, and that's we'll talk about that, but I think it's more flavorful. But I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I think it's something that's perpetuated to us a lot in advertising and just such a commonplace. It's become like a ritual in so many instances. It's cultural in so many circumstances. But I never ever felt like I was missing out on anything ever. I mean, I feel like I'm gaining more than anything. Being able to have energy, being able to excel in sports when I was younger, and being able to excel academically. I don't think I was ever missing out on anything. I think I was actually gaining everything, and I think that's the way I've always thought about it.
So take me through a typical day of your meal.
A day in my meals. Well, now it's fruit in the morning. Okay. First of all, I love fruit. I'm obsessed with fruit. So fruit in the morning. Sometimes I'll do oatmeal in the morning. I do it maybe once or twice a week, maybe sometimes once, twice every 2 weeks. I'm not a super big oatmeal person, but I do like it. Yeah. But mainly fruit, maybe sometimes oatmeal in the morning. But light. A lot of people skip breakfast. I don't skip breakfast, but a lot of people do. But I keep it light. Yeah. Light, simple, and then I move on. Lunch, I do a heavier meal, but in heavy, it's more maybe potatoes, maybe lentils. Yeah. But I do all sorts of crazy recipes. I mean, I've made all sorts of stuff that tastes so good, like potato lasagna or buffalo cauliflower guacamole tacos. That's really good. Yeah. So I don't. You have to be creative. You have to, because if your ingredients are more limited, so you have to get kind of. Yeah, they're limited and they're not limited. When I thought about it, when I first originally went in there, I thought it was going to be more limiting than it was. Yeah. Because when I look back on it, I've made over 2,000 recipes from only the produce section, 2,000 unique different recipes. So
That's impressive.
I don't think I could find anyone on the street and go up to them and say, have you eaten 2,000 different things over the last 2 years? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing they've eaten 10 different things. So pizza, pasta, bagel,
right.
French toast,
chicken,
chicken sandwich, burger, French fries. It's not many things. I mean, I could probably name them all on 2 hands.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've made 10,000 different, all taste different, all unique flavors.
Yeah.
So it's so unlimiting rather than limiting. But so the course of the day, so that lunch is that's a heavier meal.
Okay.
A little bit heavier meal, give you a little bit more energy. So, it's maybe
Pasta.
some rice. I don't eat any I eat whole grains, but I don't eat any wheat flour.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons, it's just slower to digest.
Sure.
And our bodies aren't perfectly
Yeah.
made to eat it. A lot of times, the number one reason when I went into this, I'll say, I don't know if everyone knows this, but the number one reason why I removed refined flours from the Produce Section Challenge when I started it, one is doesn't exist in the Produce Section. 2 is that's the simplest explanation. You
Right.
can't find flour in the Produce Section. It's a whole other department. It's the baking section.
Right.
It's not in the Produce Section. But I had a longer thought before I started this about moving flour. It was the fact that we use flour so often in everything we eat. And I really do believe it's one of the contributors to the obesity epidemic, because you take flour and you dunk it in oil and you get donuts.
Right.
You take flour and you dump it in a mixing bowl with sugar and you get cake.
Right.
So all of these things that are really quite terrible for us, have almost no nutritional benefit, are centered around flour. And so
Right.
I don't think there's any place for flour in a diet, honestly. It becomes more refined, so it secretes into your bloodstream quicker. It's also slower to digest, and it isn't broken down as easily in your body. So I think the best thing is eat whole foods, fruits and vegetables. It's close. If you blend them, chop them, that's fine. Use the whole thing, don't juice them.
Why not?
Because juicing, then again, you're removing the fiber, you're removing
right.
a lot of the antioxidants, and you're just leaving yourself with water that has sugar in it. Better sugar, much better sugar.
Blood sugar.
Not going to increase your blood glucose levels, sugar, but still sugar nonetheless. You're still removing a lot of what the good stuff is.
Sure.
You don't see, lions. Oh, I guess lions don't eat a lot of it, but you don't see the monkeys walking around grabbing an apple and being like, "Oh, let me juice it really quick." It's eating the whole apple and it's eating the whole banana.
Is there and then for dinner? What about your dinner?
So dinner, I almost always eat a salad. I mean, I'm obsessed with salads. I don't see why people think about salads in a negative way.
Yeah.
You just haven't had the right dressing. You're eating a good salad. I almost always eat salads, but I change it up drastically all the time. But that's 90% of the time when I had.
Would you? Is there a difference between cooking, sautéing, broccoli, or eating it raw? Would you advise one or the other?
I think if you cook it in water, there's not a drastic difference. I think there's more nutrients in it if you could eat it raw.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a drastic difference. I think if you boil it, it's a drastic difference. I think if you fry it in oil, it's a drastic difference.
Yeah.
But if you just eat it cooked or sautéed, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
And if people, I think when you go organic versus non-organic, and you go, cooked versus raw, I think what you need to think about more so than thinking about these little changes that won't make that much of a difference. You need to think about real versus non-real.
Yeah.
Processed versus unprocessed.
Sure.
I think that's the big change that you'll see the big benefits.
Yeah.
So if you take someone, because people are like, oh, it's GMO now. A GMO apple is 10 times better for you than a Hot Pocket. And
Right.
I see people walk up to me in the grocery store. So I've been to the grocery store every single day for the last 2 years. So I've met a million people. And I've seen people come up to me and ask me millions of questions. People that are either fans or follow me or just intrigued by why I have a basket full of only fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And so they'll come up to me and they'll be like, but aren't you worried about GMO? What about the pesticides? And their cart has a DiGiorno pizza and 7-Up and Snickers bars, and I'm not going to judge them, but you start to quickly realize that it's just I would say I call it weapons of mass confusion. If you continuously confuse the public and try to make them think that good things for them are actually bad for them, then there's two things that happen. One is that you enable bad habits. I could go and make cakes every single day and have 10 times the followers and make 10 times the money.
Right.
but that's because I'm enabling bad habits. Of course, if I came out with a study that said donuts actually reduce the risk of cancer, it's a complete lie.
Right.
But people are going to get excited about it. It means that their donut that they just ate from Dunkin' Donuts that morning, maybe they are running on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Nobody runs on Dunkin'. That's absolutely insane.
So a lot of it is kind of like reframing, because I think a lot of people think, oh, organic equals expensive, or and I think largely your mission is to say, like, you don't have to spend a ton of money to be healthy or to eat, So what would you say to people who are met with, like, oh, I'll just grab this, like, fast, $2 Hot Pocket versus, like, what would you say to someone where it's like you don't have to spend a lot of money to...
Yeah, well, I think the first thing you have to do is, and this is true, I think, in everything in life, not just in food, is you have to look at things on an individual basis rather than grouping. Because if you group like a section of society and you say they're all terrible, that's not true. There's great people.
Yeah.
That's a generalization. But when you say that about eating healthy, you say, oh, eating healthy is so expensive. It's also not true. In some instances, it is. In some instances, it's not. So, like, the parts are much more affordable than the sum of the parts. So if you just buy, if you buy a Hot Pocket, it's still always going to be more expensive than buying the individual ingredients because they had to assemble those parts and that costs money. So when you think about that, like, when you go to a fancy restaurant and someone's assembling it for you, yeah, it's more expensive. But if you go buy those raw materials, which is the fruits, the vegetables, in the produce section, it's always going to be way more affordable. I mean, you can buy a bundle of kale for 99 cents that's organic right now at the produce section anywhere in Los Angeles, California. Mm-hmm. One of the most expensive cities, 99 cents for a bushel of kale, which would make you like 4 or 5 salads. Yeah. So it's really, really, really inexpensive to eat from the produce section if you buy it and you chop it and you eat it. Because you're buying the parts.
Right.
Now, it's even that you can even see the drastic difference between a salad kit versus buying the apple and buying the lettuce. The salad kit's like $5.
Yeah.
You buy the lettuce and the apple, it's like $2. So even if you get pre-chopped, pre-washed lettuce versus a bundle of lettuce, it's much more expensive. So I think you just have to buy it in its whole form. So if you buy like a whole head of romaine lettuce, it's $1.29 at the grocery store. I know every single price.
I was going to say, you're so good at these prices.
I literally know every single place in Los Angeles, which is similar. Almost everywhere in the world has almost the same prices in produce.
Yeah.
But if you go, and I can say that because I've gone to produce sections almost everywhere in the world now. But if you go to a grocery store right now in Los Angeles, you buy romaine, it's going to be like $1.29, probably at the most $1.49. And you take that romaine lettuce and you look at the chopped and washed lettuce, it's going to be, I think it was $2.99, maybe the cheapest I saw it at $1.99. Yeah. So either way, it's more expensive. Right. And so I think you have to look at an individual basis. If you buy real fruits and vegetables, it's going to be drastically more affordable than anything you can buy in the rest of the grocery store. Yeah. Anything. Like, even with buy one, get one frees, even with all those other things going on in grocery stores, coupons and discounts and sales, and it's still always drastically more affordable to eat fruits and vegetables. But the thing is that people haven't been thinking about it like that. They're thinking, oh, that salad shop is $14 for a salad. It's so expensive to eat healthy. And they're right. Yeah. That salad shop is way overpriced. And that's the law of supply and demand. Mm-hmm. There's not that many healthy restaurants. So they can charge a lot more because the demand has increased drastically, especially in Los Angeles. The demand for healthy food is high in Los Angeles. The supply of healthy food is low. Right. So they have the ability to charge these outrageous prices. But if you go to the produce section, it's kind of an equalizer because now it's just like farm to produce section. It's pretty affordable, so you can get stuff for really cheap.
Yeah. So you offer meal plans. So for people who are daunted by, like, how do I make even a week's worth of recipes with 5 ingredients or whatever, like, you kind of like, you offer meal plans and like how to, like, you give people recipes for what to make.
Yeah, and I just came out with an app, Produce Section Challenge. Check it out. Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just search Produce Section Challenge.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that came out of the meal plans. Everything in the Produce Section Challenge was not planned. The only thing that I planned was I was going to go to that produce section that day, and I wasn't going to stop going until I die. Hopefully 100 years from now. Other than that, I thought some things out, like the flour thing I told you. I thought out oil. Right. How am I going to get people to get results no matter what and get results fast so that they keep doing this, they believe in this, and that it spreads? I did think about that. I thought, potatoes are super healthy if you bake them and you eat them. potatoes are super unhealthy if you dunk them and you fry them.
Right.
Because they're starch, they're going to soak up all that oil, and now they go from 200 calories for French fries to 580 calories for French fries.
So you don't eat oil at all?
I don't eat any oil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you are baking your potatoes, I would say?
Yeah, baking, air frying.
Okay.
Yeah, chopping, throwing, I don't know. Yeah, no, you have to cook 'em. But yeah, baking, air frying.
Air frying. I forgot about that. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. Just taking a break from that. So now you've created this successful business where you're bettering people's lives largely through food. But so kind of just rewinding a little bit. So you were raised in Montauk, and so tell me about like your childhood, like living out east in the Hamptons in Montauk.
Well, it's an interesting place to grow up because for 3 months out of the year, it's absolutely insane. And for 9 months out of the year, it's quiet and peaceful and relaxing and sometimes too quiet.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful place, and I think it builds a lot of character. It's got that small town feel to it, which is great because it's got a strong community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the beach, it's got the ocean, it's got the bay, it's got a lot of nature and a lot of it's just, you really feel connected to the world out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, and that quiet does allow a lot of time to think and a lot of time to become aware of yourself. And
Sure.
and so I love Montauk. It's always an important place to be. It's also really great in the summer because you get to meet so many people from all over the world, and from Manhattan, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you get these people from all over, from France, Australia, the Jamaicans, the Dominicans, the Colombians, the Irish. You got a little bit of everything coming out there. So it's really this ability to get a really diverse.
It is. I never thought about that, but it is.
Diverse upbringing, and you get to kind of taste some of their cuisines, taste some of their foods that are from their cultures, and you get to see kind of the way they live and the way they work and the way they socialize and what it means to be in our country, and also you get to see some people that are like very wealthy come out there in the summer, and you get to see what that's like, and so you get to see a lot of different things. You get to observe a lot, and you get to meet a lot of people in a very short period of time. So it's great. I think I always have an affinity for the beach and the ocean. I think it's calm, it's peaceful. I think of it as something bigger than me. And it shows you the magnitude of what's out there. And because sometimes we'll get lost in like the littlest of things, which may be important to each individual person, but in the wider, grander scheme of things aren't really that important. And it kind of checks you, keeps you in
keeps
place.
You grounded. For sure. I mean, you've been working in business for a while because your mom is Helen Ficalora, right?
Yeah.
The jewelry dynasty.
Yeah.
And you worked for her for a little bit, right? So what was your kind of role in that business?
Yeah, so my mom started Helen Ficalora. She worked so hard to launch that business. I got to see more than anything, I guess it's a spark before the fire again. I got to see what it takes in order to be successful, the commitment it takes, the hard work it takes, the ups and downs you go through, and that my mom always says a 10-year overnight success story. A lot of people see the finish line, but they don't see the race. And that's kind of what I saw with my mom. She did it while raising us, plus running a motel, taking care of my father while I was getting more and more sick, and running from a kitchen table, and it's incredible. I don't know what else to say. The odds of that, I think she's more successful than 99% of other women, and she was taking care and still takes care of a father who's a husband that's disabled, and was able to. I mean, it's just incredible. Started with pretty much no money. Most people get investors or have some sort of wealth behind her. She had nothing. My dad didn't even get any sort of money from IBM. They litigated, but it didn't end up being favorable. The outcome was tossed out in court. So we had no money. 2 kids. My mom was going to be a stay-at-home mom. Now she's a full-time, running a hotel, my grandfather's hotel, in order to keep us afloat.
Which hotel was it?
The Breakers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was incredible. I mean, what she did to launch Helen Ficalora and make it a big brand was amazing, and it's still an everyday journey. But I've helped her a lot on the tech side. So I helped her with her website. Launched that like 6 years ago for her. I launched all of her digital media, all of her social campaigns, all of her advertising. You ever see Helen Ficalora ad? I made those, or was behind all that. So I brought her up I kind of pushed her forward into the
digital age.
Yeah, the digital age, and it was really successful for that. It's helped a lot, but it's still changing so quickly, everything. But yeah, she was definitely a role model in that sense. My brother and I opened a company called Wampum, which is a skate and surf clothing company, and now it's kind of based around our passions again of growing up skateboarding. My brother's really more passionate about it than I am, to be honest. But that was a cool learning experience as well. I think it's all been experiences.
Yeah,
and
it has led you kind of to where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm much more aware of what to do and what not to do. I don't think it's perfect. It's hard.
It's hard.
Everything's just changing so fast. But I'm much more keen on what works and what doesn't work, and much more knowledgeable, and I have a lot more skills in my toolbox in order to build something that's successful, and it helps.
Yeah. And then, so what made you want to move from the Hamptons to Hollywood?
I think winter. I think it's the number one. I think if you want an honest opinion.
I know.
I think winter.
Montauk winters can be rough.
Montauk winters are cold. Montauk winters are quiet, and they're tough. I think that's the best word for it. Tough. It'll. You see a car. You put a car out in Montauk. You leave it there all year. It'll become a rust bucket because that salt wears on you. And it wears on everything. It gets cold. It gets salty. It gets.
It's kind of a euphemism for how what it can do to. Everything there, And how long have you been here?
So I've been here, I think about 5 years now.
I've been paying attention to kind of like brands lately and kind of like in business and why they're successful. And I think a lot of it has to do with relatability and, like why, like when people like influencers, for example, and they are posting their daily lives, like it really brings in a followership because they're getting to know the person behind the brand. So I think that it's really cool that you are kind of the face of the produce section challenge, and like you're taking people on a journey and you're creating the recipes and you're curating all the meal plans. I think that is really cool. How is that? Do you find it to be like a lot of pressure to kind of do all of that?
I feel like it's a lot of work. But that's true with anything. Like, so last night I was up till 5:42 a.m. working, and then I woke up at 7 a.m. So it's a lot of work.
Jeez.
But I think the relatability, that was kind of one of the keys of it as well, is that like I'm not a 5-star chef. I'm not culinary trained. And I think that's better. I think it's great if you are, but to be not is more relatable. Yeah. And I want this to be relatable. I don't want there to be any reason that someone can give an excuse. So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to break down those barriers and say, look, the only person in your way is yourself of getting healthier and living a happier life. It's not too expensive. I've shown you it's way more affordable. It's the opposite of expensive. It's actually you save money. Yeah. And so that comes back to the relatability too. It's if they see someone, even if I look like their son or their grandson, or I look like their husband, or I look like them themselves, it's more relatable. I'm not, I'm like pretty straight down the middle with a lot of things, and that helps with people kind of connect from all sides and all different areas. And I think that's been a big part of it, because this isn't about helping one person or helping one group. I don't want that. Like, I don't care what your political stance is. I don't care if you're vegan or you're not vegan. I don't care if you're 90 or you're 10. What I care about is that you have an opportunity at least to see what this can do for you, and that maybe this was out there the whole time, but we just didn't know it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give people a chance, a shot, and figure it out before it's too late, because I've seen a lot of people go down the road where it is too late. And so I just want people to see that there really is so much power behind this, and that there is no slant, there is no angle. I'm not trying to influence you for this reason or influence you for that reason. It's really just to give you a chance.
And then you have a podcast, we were just talking about it, but you have a podcast called, what was it?
How I Lost It.
How I Lost It. And so it's focusing on wellness, and you interview people, right, that you say it, what it's about.
So I interview people. So I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's how I lost it. What it is it's the journeys of people that have lost a lot of weight. And so I chose that because I think, one, it's a story of an underdog, and it's a little different than what I'm used to, which is business. Like, I'm doing business all the time. Right. So that's an underdog story too. Like, my mom's an underdog. Yeah. A woman entrepreneur with no money, 2 kids, and a sick husband. That's an underdog.
Totally.
And so I think when you look at that, that's a great way of looking at underdog. But then now looking at it at a health standpoint, someone who is 350 pounds, struggling with obesity, on diabetes medication, has really bad habits, that's an underdog to try to beat the system and figure out how to eat fruits and vegetables, how to beat cravings, how to beat addiction to food, and lose all that weight and deal with the journey that it's going to go through. You're going to go through pressure from peers. That's not that's negative, honestly. There'll be people that are positive as well along your journey, but there'll be people that say, oh, you're not eating enough, even when you're battling these diseases and you're clearly trying to better yourself. So it's an underdog story, and it's a journey that doesn't happen overnight. A lot of people want to lose weight immediately, and there's maybe surgeries that you can do that with, but it's a habitual change. It's a learning experience. It's taking chances, taking risks on yourself. And so I wanted to do How I Lost It. So I knew that they lost this much weight. They must have gone through a lot to get there. And I want to hear what it was like. What were they eating? How were they raised? What were their habits? How did they start? What was that aha moment? What was that epiphany that made them make this drastic shift from something that had been culminating over the course of 10, 20, maybe 40 years?
And you're telling stories, and I think everyone likes to hear about, and it's inspiring for people who think that they maybe can't do it, to hear that it is possible,
And it's relatable. These people are from Iowa to Texas to Kansas to Mississippi they're all over the place. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, they're, Latino, they're American, they're Caucasian, and they're African American. It doesn't make a difference. Everyone battles these battles. And so I think there's some sort of relatability to that. And this is just everyday good people, like the person that I saw in the elevator. I think I'm fighting for that person, and I think that's kind of from day one I've been fighting for that person. So that's kind of How I Lost It was about that. It was, I want to hear these people that were in that same situation that won. And
so for anyone, so it's producesectionchallenge.com.
producesectionchallenge.com, or the app obviously has everything on there as well.
You can download the app and sign up and get meal plans and everything. And
meal plans, recipes, podcasts, videos.
Cool.
You can have tons of fun.
Well, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, it's great to be on this, and I think it's awesome to see the differences between Hollywood and the Hamptons. They're similar in a lot of ways, and they're super different in a lot of ways. So